Yo, what up? This is ThisisJheat back again with another video for you guys. And what's going on in hip hop news today? Let's see. 2 Chainz just dropped Trappavelli Trey, and to be honest, I'm not a big 2 Chainz guy. Let's see, when he dropped, what was it, True Religion in like 2012. I like that project. He dropped his major debut album on a big label in like 2013. Might have been 2012, I don't know, somewhere around there. Either way, he had some success. After that, he kind of fell off the map, off the face of the earth, and people just wasn't fucking with him no more, including me. So it is what it is. I really don't care to listen to this project, but you know, it's out there. So if you're interested in 2 Chainz, go check him out. Outside of that, who else just dropped a project? Oh no, J-Rock has 90059 coming out. This is highly anticipated project, his second album from the TDE artist. If you know TDE, anything about them, then you know obviously J-Rock was the first person they had signed and was the first artist who had some level of success back in like 08, 09 when he first came out. But then, he kind of fell under the radar, and then Kendrick Lamar came and just kind of took over the whole TDE label at that point, and is now like the main focus of the label for the most part, or at least the most recognizable artist. And then you have obviously Ab-Soul, you have Schoolboy Q, so on and so forth. But J-Rock is dropping his 90059 very shortly. I don't know exactly when because he hasn't released a date as of yet, but he does have it up for stream live right now. So I'll actually put the stream link under the video. But outside of that, let's get into what I actually want to talk about. So there's been a lot of things going on in hip hop. Obviously, the Straight Outta Compton movie came out. When was that? Just this last Friday, did like 60.2 million on the first weekend, which is ridiculous. But outside of that, let's go into some albums here. So in the last 2 years, there's been a lot of hip hop albums that dropped since 2013, and I just want to break down at least what I consider to be my favorites of the last 2 years. Dopest projects. I'm talking about lyricism, production, everything. Like, these are the dopest projects, in my opinion, dropped in the last 2 years. So if you come across something that I say that you haven't heard, I recommend going to check them out. So first one I got is Isaiah Rashad, Sylvia Demo, which is probably, if not my favorite, definitely the top 3 that have come out in the last 2 years. This dropped in, I want to say like February 2014, so February last year. Dope ass project. If you don't know who Isaiah Rashad is, he's another TDE member, actually one of the newer members to join Top Dog. I think he got signed with them in like late 2013, somewhere around there. But either way, if you haven't listened to Sylvia Demo, I definitely recommend checking it out. I'm waiting for his next project to come out, so whenever that drops, I'm on it immediately because dude is sick as shit. Lyrically, he's beasting. He actually, after this project, has damn near come close to being my second favorite TDE member right after Kendrick Lamar. Ab-Soul held on to that spot until he dropped These Days. I was highly disappointed in that album, especially coming off of Control System, which I thought was like incredible. It was one of my favorite projects of 2012. But then he followed that up with These Days last year, and that shit was just straight garbage. Only listened to it one time. There's like 2 songs that I could listen to off of that album that actually get some regular rotation. Other than that, same with Schoolboy Q. Schoolboy Q dropped Habits and Contradictions in 2012. Again, another dope-ass project. Was one of my favorites of that year. But then last year, he followed up Habits and Contradictions with not quite a dud like Ab-Soul did with These Days, but Oxymoron was just okay. Like, coming off of Habits and Contradictions, you gotta I'm looking for you to progress. I'm looking for you to get better, not drop some shit that's mediocre afterwards. So Oxymoron was just mediocre. It is what it is. But Isaiah Rashad, we'll see what he does when he follows up Sylvia Demo with his next project. Hopefully it's better, or at least on par. But as of right now, he's definitely my second favorite artist on TDE, following Kendrick Lamar. So check that out. After that, I got none other than Kendrick Lamar with To Pimp a Butterfly. Project from top to bottom is like dope. He's talking about some social issues, things that you may not want to hear, but you need to hear. He's getting it to you with songs like All Right, with songs like The Black of the Berry, where that's just hard hitting. He's talking about some real issues, that's things that are plaguing the black community, so on and so forth. And he's doing it in a very unique and different way, and using production that you wouldn't necessarily expect for him to use, where it kind of has like a jazzy / neo soul type of vibe to it. But at the end of the day, the shit's dope. The way they came together and produced this project in total is like incredible to me. I love when he works with Terrence Martin and some of the other musicians that he works with. He used pretty much a lot of the same producers that he normally uses with majority of his work, but I guess they kind of came together and collectively decided that they was going to make a cohesive sound, and that's kind of what they did with To Pimp a Butterfly, and it sounds like nothing else is out right now, especially coming from a mainstream artist, an artist that's on a level and a platform like the one that he's on, because when you think of Kendrick Lamar, you think of like Drake and J. Cole and so on and so forth, these other artists who are at the top of the hip-hop game right now, and for the most part, his sound is separate from theirs. In terms of theirs sounds a little more mainstream, he kind of has like it just gives me an underground feel to it, the way that it sounds, but it's just released on a mainstream level, and I definitely gotta applaud him for that, because he's bringing something different to the mainstream rap game. Now, after that, I got Mick Jenkins. Mick Jenkins has been another highly touted and regarded artist of mine since I first heard The Waters, which he released last year, I want to say in like September-ish, so about a year ago. He dropped The Waters in 2014, and that is definitely another one of my favorite projects of that year, and since then, I've been highly anticipating his next project. He just released Waves about a week ago, and actually, it's not out for sale yet. He has it up for stream. It comes out for sale actually this Friday. But I've listened to that, and it's a short project because it's an EP, so it only has like 7 or 8 songs on there. It might be like 9, but either way, it's super short. It's less than 30 minutes long. He definitely has a couple bangers on there, some shit that you could just kind of make me want to two-step or whatever. But overall, the project is decent. I am personally waiting on his debut album because Waves EP was cool. It's something to hold us over until we get the full project, but I was expecting more. I didn't know he was going to be releasing a short EP. I was thinking it was going to be an LP, a long, an actual full-length album, but it wasn't. But for now, it's cool because it's Mick Jenkins, dude's dope, and if you haven't heard The Waters, definitely check that out. After that, I got Childish Gambino, Because the Internet. Because the Internet dropped in like 2013, I want to say December. And prior to hearing Because the Internet, I wasn't a big Childish Gambino fan. I'd say that he dropped Camp in like 2011, and he was like a cornball to me. Like the shit was, it was like he reminded me of like the suburban black kid or the suburban white kid who want to be black, who like wants to be in the inner city and wants to be hood and all that. That's kind of what he reminded me of. Or like the black kid out in the suburbs, who grew up in the suburbs, who wants to be down with the inner city kids. That's kind of what he reminded me of when I first heard him on Camp. And then he mentions a lot too about being black and not being accepted fully by the white community because he's black, but then not fully being accepted by the black community because he acts quote unquote too white and so on and so forth. But when he came with Because of the Internet, first of all, he had Royalty, which came out after Camp. And I thought, okay, this was actually a decent project. He had more songs. I'm like, okay, this is cool, but still I wasn't a fan. But when he came out with Because of the Internet, I feel like he owned into his style, he owned into his creativity, he owned into exactly who he has become and what he's going to be and when it comes to this music shit. So that again is another dope ass project. He collabed with Chance the Rapper on there, and I think Chance is another dope ass MC out of Chicago. There's a lot of Chicago dudes doing their thing right now. You got Chance, you got Vic Mensa, you got Alex Wiley, you got Kimbe X. All these dudes are like really doing their thing right now in the underground scene. After Childish Gambino, Because of the Internet, I got Chance the Rapper, Acid Rap. I had never heard of this dude prior to hearing Acid Rap. Actually, I was at this little get together and I met this chick there, and she was from Chicago. She was only here visiting, and she was like, we was talking about music. She's seen that I was really into music, like really, really into it, and she was like, you should listen to this guy Chance the Rapper. He's from Chicago. And I'm like, okay. I'm thinking like it's gonna be her cousin, some dude who's just gonna be whacking shit, like some local ass Chicago nigga. Like she's just trying to have, spread the word and get his name out there or whatever. So I go listen to it, and I'm like, oh shit, this is actually decent. The first song I heard was Hey Ma, and that song was cool. I'm like, okay, so we'll see what happens when Acid Rap comes out because it hadn't released yet. But he did have Juice, and I remember watching the video for Juice. and I'm like, okay, this song is unique, it's different. He has his own style. He had this singing, rapping thing going on, and he had this weird ass voice. Now, initially, the voice threw me off, but the song was so fucking catchy, and I would like be walking down the street or be at work or whatever, and just singing this shit. And I'm like, I gotta watch this video again. So I kept on watching the video. Eventually, Juice became like my shit, and I was like, every day I'm listening to the song, so on and so forth. Then the project drops, and I really got a sense of who Chance the Rapper was once Acid Rap dropped, and I'm like, damn, this is immediately one of my favorite projects of when did that release? 2013. And what it did was it reminded me of like the first time I heard Kanye West's College Dropout album, or it put me in kind of in mind of like Lauryn Hill's Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, like when I first heard that. And those were like classic ass albums that gave me some type of feeling that's almost hard to explain, but it like put me in a certain mood. And Chance the Rapper kind of did that with Acid Rap. So I'm looking forward to his next solo project because he did release Surf with Donnie Trumpet in a social experiment. But to me, that's not a Chance project. That's a Donnie Trumpet and a social experiment project. So it doesn't give me the same feel. It's not the same vibe. They are more on the live instrumentation type of music where it sounds more like the Roots. I can compare the social experiment to the Roots. And it's good music, but I have to be in the mood for it. It's not something I can just listen to on a regular basis. There are a few songs in there that I like, but overall I think the project was just subpar at best. So that was Surf. Now Acid Rap, amazing. After that I got Drake, Nothing Was the Same. Nothing Was the Same it was definitely Drake's third official mainstream debut, or not debut, but mainstream album and release. And I mean, I don't know. For me, it was cool. I liked it. It wasn't his best work, but I definitely feel it was better. It's one of his best mainstream works. I still think Take Care is the better album that he's put together on a mainstream level. But Nothing Was the Same for the last 2 years, it was definitely one of my, I'd say like 10th favorite album or so. It's in the top 10, somewhere in there. He's spitting bars. He's doing what he does. He's still having the female shits. He does what he does. You know, you at this point you've come to expect a certain thing from Drake, and he delivers that with Nothing Was the Same. Now with this last shit he dropped, I don't know what the fuck that was. That was boo boo to me, straight garbage. His wackest project to date, and that was If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. That shit that's trash. I listened to it one time, try it again for a second time, and I just can't get into it. So it is what it is. After that, I got A$AP Rocky's Long Live A$AP. When I first heard A$AP Rocky back in like 2011, dude had a certain style that kind of reminded me of like Bone Thugs and Harmony. But initially, I wasn't into it. It took me, actually, I was laying down in bed and just like had iTunes on shuffle, just playing random shit. And it was playing that, I can't think of the song right now. Something about my old head or some shit. Houston, and it got like the Houston style to it or whatever. But either way, that came on and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Because I hadn't listened to it. But I was like, damn, this shit's dope. And that made me then re-listen to his mixtape, and I liked that a lot. I became a fan after that. He dropped his first debut album in 2012, and or it might have been 2013. Yeah, early 2013. And I thought it was amazing. So that's that. His last album was just okay to me. It doesn't compare to his first one in my opinion. Then you got J. Cole 2014, Forest Hills Drive. This just came out in December 2014. Again, this is probably J. Cole's best mainstream work. It's not his best body of work, because for me, that would be either The Warm Up or Friday Night Lights, which came out back in like 2009 and 2010. But those two projects are classics. He hasn't put anything out quite as good as those yet, but in the last couple of years, I'd say that 2014 Forest Hills Drive is definitely one of my favorites to drop. So then you got Quest, Search and Sylvan. Quest is another MC who's relatively unknown, and he kind of works, I don't know if he's on the same label as Logic or what the deal is, but I feel like they work closely together. I've heard Quest mention Logic, and I've heard Logic mention Quest on many occasions. But at the end of the day, Search and Sylvan is a dope ass project it's an underground project that has a mainstream kind of sound. The difference is he's not using auto-tune. He's spitting straight bars. Dude got flows for days, like lyrics on point. killing the game with that. But for whatever reason, it doesn't seem as if Search and Sylvan has got a lot of press. There's not a lot of buzz around Quest yet. Whereas with Mick Jenkins, it seemed like, because they kind of released around the same time, Mick Jenkins kind of blew up after the waters, and Quest is still kind of like submerged in the waters to a certain extent. Like, people haven't really recognized him, or at least aren't talking about him as much as they are with someone like a Mick Jenkins. And that could be because Mick Jenkins has more of a standout sound in terms of his vocals, his voice, just the style of production that he's on is just, he separates himself from the crowd, whereas Quest kind of is running with the crowd, so to speak. So then after that, I got Lupe Fiasco's Tetsuo on Youth, which came out earlier this year. It is his best project since The Cool. So he had Food and Liquor, which was a classic, The Cool, which was a classic in my opinion. Then he dropped 2 duds in Lasers and Food and Liquor 2, the Great American Rap album. Those were shit albums, like straight up garbage, doo-doo. If you was a Lupe fan prior to, you almost probably became a Lupe hater afterwards, because, I don't want to say hater, but you just hated the fact that you knew he had so much potential but was dropping some straight garbage shit. And that happened to be kind of the thought process of a lot of Lupe fans over the last 5 years or so, is that you know he has potential, but he's putting out some weak shit. And so he kind of restored himself after Tetsuo on Youth, but at this point, it's so many people who just kind of given up on the dude that they didn't even give it a shot. Now me, I did give it a shot. I did like it. I like it a lot. Actually, it's one of my favorite projects to come out this year. But again, I don't know, man. Lupe, in order for him to restore and get back all the fans that he had in his earlier days, he would have to drop at least another project just as good as this, if not better. But those are my top 10 projects of the last 2 years, since 2013. With honorable mentions being Pusha T's My Name Is My Name, which I thought was actually a pretty dope project. Minus like 3 or 4, like maybe 2 or 3 songs that I really couldn't stand that I had to skip every single time. But other than that, I thought Pusha T had dropped a pretty solid project for 2013. Then after that, I got Audio Push, Come As You Are, which is another project from another duo of dudes who pretty much in like 2009 was dancing, and one of those You're a Jerk type dudes from California, but they put themselves in a box with the damn dance songs back then. But at this point, with Come As You Are, what they did was they kind of took themselves out of that box. They was actually spitting, they was actually rapping. Like, you get a sense that these dudes were just doing that because they were forced by a label or by some other outside force to do a specific sound because that was what was selling at the time. But at this time, they're actually rapping, they're actually putting together quality music for the most part, and I would definitely recommend checking out Come As You Are. Not in a top 10, but I definitely say that it would be top 15 of the last 2 years if I had a choice. But that is what it is. Top 10 albums of the last 2 years for me. And this is ThisisJheat. I'll see you on my next video, which I'll be doing tomorrow. I'm out. Deuces.